Here's looking at you, kid. Hello everyone, I'm Sarah from Everyday Starlet. Welcome to my channel. I'm here to inspire you to be the star of your own life. I'm continuing my masculine feminine energies film breakdown series with a classic, Casablanca. If you're new to this series, I'm talking about masculine and feminine energies. I have a lot of videos on this topic, but just a short overview. Masculine and feminine energies are energies that live within all of us, but we all have a core energy that is the energy that we are most ourselves in, and that may relate to our gender or it might not. More often than not, it does. We also have different archetypes within those energies, masculine and feminine. We all have all of these archetypes that we can tap into whenever we want to, but we tend to be more comfortable in certain archetypes than in others, and I have tons of videos on the archetypes and different information about masculine and feminine energies if you want to check those out. Casablanca is the ultimate love triangle film. It basically looks at Ilsa, who is trying to decide between her husband, Victor, who is an activist, and her other love, Rick, who is a cafe owner in Morocco. This film takes place during the 1940s when Nazi Germany was trying to take over the world, and honestly, it's craziness. I mean, people are asking to show their papers, they're fighting for visas, people are trying to flee to America, there's all kinds of government corruption. I mean, thank God nothing like that could happen in the world today. Wait, what?
May I see your papers? I don't think I have them on me.
I advise that this place be shut up at once.
But everybody's having such a good time.
Yes, much too good a time. The place is to be closed.
But I've no excuse to close it.
Find one.
How can they close me up? On what ground?
I'm shocked to find that gambling is going on in here.
You're winning, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. Everybody out at once.
I was in a German concentration camp for a year. That's honor enough for a lifetime.
I'm making out the report now. We haven't quite decided whether he committed suicide or died trying to escape. Round up the usual suspects.
I would suggest watching this movie if for no other reason than to wake you up to some of the stuff that's going on in the world today. But it's kind of exactly what's happening in the world today, except people were better dressed back then. So first let's look at Ilsa, who is the woman in this love triangle. Ilsa is a very feminine character. If you notice, she's always in her emotions. She expresses her emotions. She does try to hold them back to keep herself a little reserved, but you can always see her emotions just bubbling up below the surface. Showing emotions, emotional energy, things like that, that's all very feminine. She also has a very softness to her throughout the film. You can tell she's very caring, she's very loving, she's very heart open. All very feminine, although she's not afraid to step into that huntress energy when she feels like she needs to be strong and get what she wants.
All right. I tried to reason with you. I tried everything. Now I want those letters.
Now basically we find out in this movie that Ilsa is married to Victor, who is a very, very well-known activist who is fighting against the Nazis. Victor has gone through a lot, and at a certain point in the film, Ilsa is told that her husband has not survived what he's been through, so she believes that she's a widow. Then she meets Rick when she's in Paris, and she falls in love with him. They decide they're going to flee the Nazis together, and then we find out that Ilsa realizes that her husband is still alive, and she basically leaves Rick, and he goes into a depression. He goes to Morocco, he opens a cafe, and really just never gets over her. Then, of course, Ilsa and Victor are trying to escape to the US to find safety, and they run into Rick, and he is essentially the answer to their problems, to helping them escape to America. But of course, drama ensues. I'm probably going to give away some spoilers in this video, so I'm going to warn you, although this is an old enough video and I do feel like the final scenes in this movie are so iconic that most people kind of know how it turns out. And I do highly recommend that you watch this video and listen to some of the things that I'm pointing out, and then re-watch this movie even if you've seen it, to see if you can pick up on some of the things that I've talked about. Plus it's also an amazing movie, and I do think it will wake you up to a lot of the things that are going on in the world today, so I highly recommend it. I think there's kind of a debate about whether or not people believe that Ilsa should have gone with Victor or if she should have stayed with Rick. And I have to admit, when I watched this movie when I was younger, the first time I saw it I was probably in my 20s, I had this like soft spot for Rick. It was like, no, she should have stayed with Rick, like she should have been with him, and I think that was like that hopeless romantic in me. Now rewatching it, now as a woman who's in her 40s and who's been studying the masculine and feminine energies, I really do believe that her going with Victor was always what she was meant to do. She was meant to be with Victor, and if she had stayed with Rick, she would have regretted it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow,
But soon and for the rest of your life.
You knew that was coming. I couldn't help myself. Victor is a truly masculine male in so many ways. He is, I mean, he's an activist. He has a higher purpose. That is a big, big factor in masculinity. The masculine needs a greater purpose. He needs a greater, whether it be a cause or something, he needs something that is greater than himself to be dedicating his life to. And it doesn't necessarily have to be defeating world evil, but it very well could be. And it really should feel that way to him, no matter how small it is. It should be something that his true passion, his true purpose, and that no matter how many times he gets knocked down, he gets back up again and he fights a new day. And that's masculine energy at its finest.
We might as well question why we breathe. If we stop breathing, we'll die. If we stop fighting our enemies, the world will die.
What of it? It'll be out of its misery.
You know how you sound, Monsieur Blaine? Like a man who's trying to convince himself of something he doesn't believe in his heart. Each of us has a destiny, for good or for evil.
And if you notice, Victor has been through some pretty horrific things. We don't actually see it in this film, but it is alluded to that he has basically gone through some horrible devastations, and he doesn't let that get to him. Like, he still keeps getting up to fight a new day because he believes in a bigger cause, and he believes the cause is bigger than him.
If I didn't give them to you in a concentration camp, where you had more persuasive methods at your disposal, I certainly won't give them to you now.
And frankly, seeing a masculine being in his purpose, like, there's nothing more attractive than that to a feminine being. When a feminine being sees her masculine partner fully living his passion and purpose, there is nothing more appealing. And you see that with Ilsa when she looks at Victor, when he's truly living his purpose. I mean, that is a look of love. Like, that is a look of a woman who truly loves the man that she's with. Another big aspect of masculinity is protection, and you notice that Victor always puts Ilsa's safety first. Like, he puts her safety above his own many times, as much as he knows that his safety is important, because if he's not safe and he doesn't survive, then he can't live to fight a new fight.
Why two?
He is traveling with a lady.
Well, it'll take one.
I think not. I've seen the lady. And if he did not leave her in Marseille or in Iran,
He certainly won't leave her in Casablanca.
But he always puts her safety at a high priority. In fact, he puts her safety above being with her. Not because he doesn't want to be with her, because he obviously does want to be with her, because I think he knows how important she is to helping him live his true purpose. But I'll get to that in a minute. He loves her so much that he would rather her be safe with someone else than to be in danger with him.
I ask only one thing. You won't give me the letters of transit. All right. But I want my wife to be safe. I ask you as a favor to use the letters to take her away from Casablanca.
You love her that much?
Apparently you think of me only as a leader of a cause. Well, I'm also a human being. Yes, I love her that much.
And that's actually a really big way that masculine beings express and show love, is by protecting the ones that they love. It's like they show love through protection and creating a safe space. Now, it's alluded to in the film, but I think it's worth mentioning, because Rick actually mentions it at the end when he mentions how important Ilsa is to Victor and to Victor fighting his cause.
Inside of us, we both know you belong with Victor. You're part of his work, the thing that keeps him going.
And it's only alluded to, but I do believe that you do get a sense that Victor really appreciates and understands how important Ilsa is as his partner for him to fully live his passion and purpose. And I think that's something that we've lost a little bit in our society, and I actually am going to go into this in another video, but I think it's been lost a little bit in our current society how important it is for a masculine being to have the right feminine partner to truly live his passion and purpose. It's been studied across the board that men who have the right partner are infinitely more successful at whatever it is that they're doing than someone who's either going it alone or has the wrong partner. And I think that's really important to note, that Victor knows, and I think everybody knows, Rick knows, everybody knows, that Victor having Ilsa by his side is going to benefit him, and it's going to benefit him being fully who he needs to be to fully live out his passion and purpose. It's for a greater good. And I think that's one of the reasons why, at the end, Rick does sacrifice Ilsa and gives her up to be with Victor because he realizes that she's going to be with someone who needs her, and it's all for a greater good. That's his sacrifice. That's his way of showing love, which I'm going to get to Rick in a minute. But I just think that's a really important note because it is something that gets lost in our society. It's so important for the masculine to have a passion and purpose, but having the right feminine partner is a huge factor in how successful that masculine being is in fully living that passion and purpose. Now, of course, having the wrong partner can really screw things up, but I do think it's important to acknowledge that the right partner can help a masculine being be infinitely more successful. Now let's get to Rick. Honestly, next to Rick, Victor does seem a little bland. I think when I was younger, he seemed a little bland. But then when I realized how much masculinity is very grounded and rooted in its purpose, I had a much stronger appreciation for him now. Rick is very much, I would say, in a lot of wounded feminine energy. It's not quite as extreme as in my Cat on a Hot Tin Roof example with Paul Newman's character. He was very, very much in wounded feminine energy. Rick in this film is as strongly in that, but he definitely has a lot of feminine energy wounding. And you can have wounded masculine or feminine energy in either gender. When wounded feminine energy shows up in males, it tends to show up in a lot of addiction problems, low self-worth, self-destructive behaviors, things like that. Rick exhibits all of those things. If you notice in the flashback scenes when Rick and Ilsa are in Paris, he's much more fun-loving. He's in love, he's wide-eyed, but he's also in that very open-hearted feminine energy as well. He kind of doesn't necessarily have a direction at that point. He's just kind of having fun. He's in love. He's in Paris. Not necessarily committed to anything, although he does love Ilsa and wants to be with her. But he's not necessarily rooted and grounded in his masculinity. Now, of course, when Ilsa breaks his heart and he goes off to Morocco, he sinks himself into drinking. He mentions being a drunkard several times. It's alluded to that he has trouble committing to women. He kind of just sees women and then doesn't commit to them, moves on to the next one. His heart is closed down. His heart has been broken and his heart has completely shut down, and he's not going to open it up. He's still going to fool around with women. He's going to drink. He's going to numb out his feelings. He's going to get emotional sometimes. You know, he has a business. He runs a business. He takes his business very seriously, but he also won't commit to anything. He won't commit to having a passion, to having a greater need, to having a greater purpose in life. He, you know, always refers to himself as being neutral, or he doesn't stick his neck out for anybody. Now, that's not always the way he lives.
Louis, whatever gave you the impression that I might be interested in helping Laszlo escape?
Because, my dear Ricky, I suspect that under that cynical shell, you're at heart a sentimentalist.
Oh, laugh if you will, but I happen to be familiar with your record.
There's definitely times in this film when you see his heart open up, when you see him have a lot of compassion for someone, when you do see him stick his neck out for people, even though he claims he doesn't do that. Like, he definitely has a heart. He's not just a completely heartless character. He has a heart, but that heart is shut down. And it's shut down because he's had his heart broken by a woman who he believed was the love of his life. And Ilsa even calls him out on it at one point.
There's so much at stake, all you can think of is your own feeling. One woman has hurt you and you take your revenge on the rest of the world. You're a coward and weakling.
And to be totally honest, as much as this is even hard for me to admit, I will acknowledge that feminine beings don't want to believe that they can destroy their masculine partner. It's tricky because it's not like we want him to like not care about us. It's not like feminine beings want their masculine partner to, you know, just move on to somebody else or anything. But we also don't want our masculine partner to be broken by us that easily. And granted, she did leave him. There was a lot of stress. I'm not saying that it necessarily wasn't cruel. However, feminine beings don't want to believe that their masculine partner is that easily broken. And if you look at what Ilsa was used to with Victor, I mean, concentration camps didn't break him. Interrogation tactics didn't break him. Nothing broke him. If she left him, yeah, he would be hurt. He would be devastated. If she had chose Rick, it probably would have hurt him. But he's been through worse. He's a strong enough person and he has a greater purpose that he would still keep fighting for. Yes, it would be harder. He probably would go through things. I mean, that's not to say, I'm not saying that men can't be heartbroken, that they can't have emotions, they can't go through things. The feminine wants to know that a masculine partner is going to be strong enough to overcome that. And the fact that Rick just ends up sinking into all of this wounding and depression and toxic behaviors and has completely shut his heart down, that's not as appealing to the feminine. And I think that Ilsa feels bad at certain points. I do think that she loses a little bit of respect for him for not understanding that there's greater things in life, there's bigger things in life than just their love, which is something that he actually alludes to at the end of the film. You know, that there is something greater, and he starts to realize that towards the end of the film.
Ilsa, I'm no good at being noble, but it doesn't take much to see that the problems of three little people don't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world.
Now, watching this film again from the masculine-feminine perspective, I have an interesting thought on what Ilsa's attraction to Rick was in the beginning. Ilsa had actually been in a relationship with Victor. She's married to Victor, and he was a major activist. He was, you know, they were never really in safety. He ended up in a concentration camp. I mean, you can't even imagine the trauma that he experienced, but obviously a wife seeing her husband go through that has got to be massively traumatic for her. So having been with such a strong masculine partner and then have it be surrounded by so much trauma, I think you can see why her moving on with someone like Rick, who was not really grounded, not really rooted, he wasn't fighting for a bigger purpose. He wasn't fighting for a greater purpose. He was just kind of fun. Like, he was a fun guy. He was loving life. He was in that lover energy. They were in Paris. I think you could see where she would find that really appealing, because I think she was still traumatized by what had happened. She saw, like, okay, when you have a man who has a greater purpose, it's not safe. So I think she went to someone like Rick because for her in that moment that felt safer, to be with somebody who wasn't necessarily an international threat, really. And I think she got caught up in that emotionally, and I think she did really care for Rick, and I think she held a lot of guilt for having hurt him, for having put him in that situation. But in reality, if she had stayed with Rick or left with Rick, or she had basically chosen Rick over Victor, eventually that would start to bother her. And she would start to feel like, I want someone who has a greater purpose. I want someone who is committed to a cause. I want someone who is living his passion and purpose. And again, she probably would have regretted it at some point if she had stayed with him. Because a feminine being really needs a partner who is really embodying his masculine in order to feel like she has a truly fulfilling relationship. And you can see Rick soften, especially in the final scene when he essentially sacrifices his love for Ilsa to give to Victor because he realizes that there's a greater purpose in life. This is his contribution to the greater purpose, and he's starting to come into his own. He's caring about somebody other than himself. He's opening up his heart a bit to, again, something bigger than himself, realizing that him holding on to her is not good for him and it's not good for her. It's not good for the world. And he really starts to step into that masculinity at the end of the film. I want to hear your thoughts. Are you Team Rick or are you Team Victor? Who do you think Ilsa should have ended up with? I'm curious. And that was my breakdown of Casablanca. I really hope that you enjoyed this. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear them. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Also, let me know if you have any other movie requests, TV show requests, anything else you'd like me to break down, let me know. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please give it a big thumbs up. And be sure you subscribe to my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you join me next time.